When the wind blows cold on the shores of Lake Erie, the Queen City moans her sad, lonely song. Her streets are empty, but for handfuls of scattered souls, scurrying to escape the chill. Most are gathered at the warm watering holes that garnish every street corner, offering respite for the weary. The air hangs thick and is warmed by the hot takes that resound from the wooden walls. We find ourselves on the doorstep of such a place, with the champions of mediocrity about to set off on another long-winded journey. The windows are already beginning to fog with the balmy bloviations. As the door creaks open, a rush of warm air ushers the velvet voices of the 716 Sports Podcast.
"716 Sports Podcast" back here with you. Wherever you're listening here on this Labor Day week, I just want to tell you that we did it, everyone. Together we did it. This is your last week starting without NFL football back on the schedule. We made it through that long grind. Now all the what-ifs and the has and what could-bes will become the ares and the wers, as the Bills are now just a few days away from kicking off the 2018 regular season against the Baltimore Ravens. And we are here to talk about what's gotten them here since that third preseason game. There's been a lot going on the last week here in Bills land. We've got a number of players who have been cut and moved on. We have quite possibly the biggest comeback in preseason football history, orchestrated by a guy who will be starting the season on the West Coast. And we have predictions. And we have a number one quarterback now, too. A number one locked in as of just this afternoon. Nate Peterman, locked in, your number one Buffalo Bills quarterback, at least to start game number one. Guys, how do you feel about Peterman? I know it's maybe not the sexy option, but at this point in time, do you think it's the right option?
It's the smart option.
I'm not worried about it. I think he got put in a really bad spot last year. His arm's not. Everyone's worried about his arm, which is kind of a flaw. But I'm not worried about it. He earned it. He's by far and away the best statistically, and he's the only quarterback that actually moved the first team offense. Everyone else, no luck at all. That's my take.
Yeah, it's tough to judge a lot of, I think, what we saw as first team quarterbacking in the preseason. We talked about it a little bit last show, but trying to judge Josh Allen about what he did with the first team offense when he spent half of it backpedaling, it's hard. And Peterman definitely had his moments. Statistically, he was very good. Even the interception he threw was not his fault. He was very accurate. He did well. He seemed to read the defenses very well. And I think at this point we could say he's probably the most pro-ready quarterback right now.
When your options are a rookie and a second-year quarterback behind this offensive line, I don't know if there's really a better option, so you're hoping your future franchise quarterback just doesn't get killed right away.
I mean, they all play with the starters. And Peterman only got sacked twice. He just get the ball out quick. It's what he does. It's his thing.
I think the third preseason game is the game where you see teams doing the most realistic defense. That's the game against Cincinnati where the Bengals were actually maybe not trying to apply a ton of pressure, but they had their first team defense out there and they were going at it. I think maybe you weight that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different ways that you can go about this. Are you concerned that the 7th overall pick can't beat out a fifth rounder from the previous year? Does 1 year mean that much? That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is, like Justin said, it was pretty clear from the start, taking all games as a whole, that Nate Peterman was the best quarterback on the Bills roster. It's not fun. It doesn't seem great to say that, but I think it's true. If you have the ability to watch the games, he looked the best. He looked the most competent. His one interception wasn't even his fault.
It should have been a completion.
So, yeah, I mean, what is interesting is now where does this go? Is this, I was thinking, what if this team is at, say 5-6 or 6-6, something along those lines? Do you make the change? Again, we've seen it backfire once on this coaching staff. they've kind of painted themselves into a place where I think we're going to see Nathan Peterman play until this team is fully out of contention. I really think at this point there's not really much of an option otherwise.
Which could be by week 5, man. And he's
It could be. And yes, it very well
this
could
team
be.
could be 0-4, and they're going to have to play against the Chargers defense, the Vikings defense, and the Packers defense.
yeah,
got
and the
a
Ravens
very
defense.
tough start.
Yeah, it's a tough
Yes,
start.
and as we've gone over before, 3 of their first 4 on the road and in difficult environments in Baltimore, Minnesota, and Green Bay. So, not easy spots for anybody. to
And even
play.
their home games against the Chargers, whose defensive line carved them up last year.
Yep.
And he's got a great opportunity, but he's not in a very good spot at all.
No.
And it's
No,
probably gonna.
no matter who you put back there, nobody's in a good spot.
These first 4 games are gonna make or break his whole career.
It is. You don't want to lose a guy that early. Credit to Nathan Peterman in the sense that a lot of people thought his. How do you ever come back from what happened in Los Angeles last year? And here he is. He's one of 32 guys that can say he's a starting quarterback for an NFL team.
He was in such a bad spot last year with that on the road in LA against one of the league's best defensive lines. First game ever.
With a team that the previous 2 or 3 games hadn't been doing anything on offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if that was
Well,
rough,
that's a
on
little
Peterman,
bit of revisionist history, but that's
No,
fine.
it's not.
It doesn't matter. Well,
It is
okay,
not
so the
revisionist
offense,
history that
the
Tyrod Taylor
struggles-
was not moving the ball down the field.
Right.
He was not leading them very well on offense. That is not revisionist history.
Did you
That is
enjoy
fact,
seeing
and
Nathan
that is
Peterman
fact,
play
and that
against
is
Los
why he
Angeles?
got replaced.
Okay.
That is why they had to make that move.
And we had 30 minutes of activity, and then we decided to go back to what the correct decision should have been, which was Tyrod Taylor starting again in Los Angeles.
But you had to see what else was there when your offense was so inept that they weren't moving the ball against the Jets, they weren't moving the ball against the Saints.
and it almost cost the team a playoff spot.
I agree with Mike. You had to see what he had there in him. I don't think it was the best time to do it.
Yeah, I
but
think there's a difference between should they have done it at some point is one argument, and should they have done it on a Tuesday or when it was a Tuesday after announcing on Monday that it's Tyrod,
Right.
And
that
then
was
throwing him
as
on the road
poor
at a
team
tough
management
team.
as I've ever seen.
You make
And
that
I
move off a
understand
bye
for a week. That yes, exactly. That was the time to do it.
That was some good healthy debate, boys. I like it.
Well, it's just I won, but that's fine.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
That's debatable.
Well, we'll have to do a
Hey,
hashtag
check out our
Super
new
Bowl.
spin-
To win a
Spin-off
debate, you have
podcast.
to be able to
That's
argue with
debatable.
facts. And you don't do that. You didn't do that.
I argue with emotion.
Just getting hot
Exactly.
here.
Yeah.
You know, well, if all else fails, good news. We got Paxton Lynch coming in here working out.
Yeah,
so
yeah, that could be.
have no fear, boys.
You thought you had enough tall quarterbacks from out on the West Coast? Well, boy, howdy. Do they have one coming in hot here tomorrow? Paxton Lynch, a recent first-round pick who was deemed by John Elway to be worse than the remnants of Swag Kelly, is coming into the Bills for a workout here tomorrow. So
Originally deemed to be the future in Denver.
the future in Denver. Well, he was competing with Trevor Siemian and a bunch of other elite quarterbacks out there in Denver.
And he was all in, and look what happened. Couldn't do it. Looked awful against Minnesota, was immediately demoted, and then promptly cut 3 years into this thing.
Got
2
booed
years,
off
really.
the field in a preseason game.
Not good. Not good. Fans.
Not a good sign.
The fans of Denver are passionate. I don't know why you even do it. You already tried to take a chance with a former high-round pick in Corey Coleman. That failed. Not saying, I mean, wide receiver versus quarterback, I get it, but it just, I don't know. There seems to be better options than having another forever project that it seems like Paxton Lynch is.
Right,
What's the point? You're already trying to get Josh Allen more reps.
Yeah, like
in
at this
practice
point,
anyway.
if you feel the need to have another quarterback in the room with a second-year quarterback in Nathan Peterman, who's going to have just a second career start, and a rookie in Josh Allen, you would think the move would be what they tried to do with McCarron, which is bringing in the veteran who's been through the paces, can be in the film room, be like, here, hey guys, this is what you should look for, this is what you would do. You bring in Paxton Lynch into a new system. Paxton's been in the league for one more year than than Peterman. Like, what's he going to add that Peterman doesn't have?
Now we don't know if they're going to sign him, but just
Right, they
on
might
the
just be in here taking a
surface,
look
this
at it.
just it doesn't make sense.
Like,
If
I guess
what-
no harm,
what are
no
you
foul in
trying
bringing
to-
him in for a workout,
I
but
suppose to see what's there, but what are you trying to? I don't know what the goal is. What are you trying to see here? Because obviously the guy couldn't do anything in Denver, despite the tutelage and the coaching of we've seen legends make selections and fail out. Kwame Brown, so it's fine, but it just seems like a waste of a visit to me and potentially a waste of a roster spot.
And speaking of wasted roster spots, so the other part of this Bills whole quarterback thing then is McCarron stomps them back, storms them back in the fourth quarter against the Bears, and his trade stock that was promptly in the absolute shitter is resurrected back to the point that he's traded to Oakland for a 5th-round pick, which leads to the Raiders cutting everyone's favorite former Buffalo first-round pick, E.J. Manuel.
He had a great preseason also. He had 77% completion percentage. He had like 500 yards and touchdown. I think no picks either. That's a surprising cut. I don't know.
Man, the Raiders are making surprising personnel decisions. Name a more iconic duo.
Is going on in Oakland right now?
I had to go back and find the Gruden's QB camp on YouTube where he was saying how much he loved AJ Manuel.
This guy's a gamer.
But not enough to keep him on the roster.
He's a meat and potatoes quarterback. What does that mean, John? It means I don't know. He's just good. He reads the field. Hard worker.
Every move. The
Martavis Bryant
cut.
Third-round pick for Martavis Bryant, which was questionable at the time.
Right, which seemed dumb. Then trading a 5th-round pick. Now, look, McCarron looked good in the comeback. I didn't think that he was worth a 5th-round pick, and I almost think, all right, I mean, that's a pretty good value considering what we saw a good quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater go for.
Is he GM coach?
Yes.
Okay.
He has
not officially,
but he's basically he has final say in player personnel. Things have to be signed off by John Gruden in order to do this.
I mean,
which is really impressive that he said he didn't know about the Khalil Mack trade or didn't have a hand in that, which is objectively false.
Very odd.
McCarron did throw some dots.
Well, yes, but now McCarron has to go into Oakland and learn a whole new playbook.
Yeah. Great quarter.
Yeah, what is that against Chicago's
laugh.
fourth stringers, most of whom probably aren't even on the roster?
Yeah, one of them just got cut to get Khalil Mack. So it's 2 firsts from Chicago, 2 firsts, a 3rd, and a 5th.
Yep.
For Khalil Mack and a 2nd. Now those firsts are the next 2 first-round picks for Chicago, so 2019, 2020. And it's been a really interesting month in the NFL as a whole for evaluation of superstar talent, especially defensively. You have Aaron Donald holding out for an extended period of time, and eventually the Rams come around on that. They reached a deal just last week. That was at the time the highest paid defensive player deal in the history of the NFL. About a week later now, here we are talking about Khalil Mack, who has gone extended with Chicago, and now he is the owner of the highest paying individual defensive player contract in the history of the NFL. You have Le'Veon Bell, who came out today, did not at any point sign his franchise tender, even though he tweeted that he had done so back in the early summer, and was not at their first official walkthrough practice today. You have Earl Thomas, who just went back to Seattle to take his daughter to school tomorrow, but has said there's no deal anywhere for that. The value of draft picks versus players feels like it's getting a little bit skewed at this point.
What would you give up to get Earl Thomas or Le'Veon Bell? All things equal.
Am I speaking as a general NFL general manager or as the Buffalo Bills? Because it's a very different answer.
This is 716. Let's do the Bills.
I don't have any interest in Earl Thomas because I feel very confident in our safeties.
Okay.
Le'Veon Bell, it's tough. Like, you have to think, how much better is Bell than McCoy? I think Bell is a step or 2 ahead of McCoy.
2.
Younger.
But only by 3 years, I believe.
3 years.
27 versus 30. A lot of tread on the tires, worn off.
Yeah,
Because missed the
for
last few
both of
training
these
camps,
guys.
so we'll give them that.
I don't think Bell and McCoy are all that different in the sense that
I think that there's a similar enough style, at least that what they try to
very
achieve.
patient,
Bell's a little bit
very
more physical.
patient runners.
Yeah.
I don't know if the patience is going to pay off with an offensive line that struggles this year, which we will get to in a little bit later. But a dynamic pass catcher and someone that is significantly younger, and you're already paying quite a lot for a star running back. So what's the value of that upgrade if it is a couple $1 million?
If we didn't have Shady, I would take Le'Veon Bell. I would trade
absolutely.
a first, 2 first.
But now you're
for
talking
Le'Veon.
about not having a star player on the roster bring in a star player in instead of now having.
I'm just
where we're
saying,
talking about two
hypothetically, if
star
we
So-
didn't
players.
have Shady.
I think there's 2 points to what you're mentioning. So 2 first-round picks for Le'Veon Bell in a situation where, let's say, like, LaShawn McCoy gets seriously injured or something happens with his legal issues and he's no longer available to the Buffalo Bills. 2 firsts is a lot. You can argue that he brings a lot to the offense, but there's a lot of pieces missing around him. Then the question is, How confident are you that one of those 2 first-round picks that you're going to use, that you would trade in the situation that you proposed, turns into a star player? I think that's where Oakland is kind of the point of view of John Gruden and Reggie McKenzie is different than that of the team in Chicago. Chicago feels like bringing in Khalil Mack, you hope that their first-round pick that you take here this year becomes a player of the quality of Khalil Mack. Whereas Oakland says, well, we can get 2 guys. But what's the hit rate for first-round picks? We're just here talking about E.J. Manuel, or we can talk about John McCargo, or guys who are first-round talents, Corey Coleman. Sherlock first-round talents are not sure things in the NFL. The college game doesn't translate for everyone to the NFL the way that it translates for some of the truly great players. And Khalil Mack is top of his game. There was an interview.
Proven.
Peter King was interviewing Sean Payton this morning, and Payton was talking about how when they last played the Raiders, now they only play them once every 4 years in the NFC, he literally had entire packages of pass protection that he just rotated to whatever side Khalil Mack was on. Because coaches recognize that a player of that level of talent, if you don't address him defensively, the Khalil Macks, the Aaron Donalds of the world, you're just going to get wrecked all game long. The Joey Bosa, it's Joey Bosa last year against the Bills. They didn't have an answer for him.
I think.
I mean, I would have totally traded 2 first-rounders for Mack. I mean, think of our last 2 first-round picks. Would you not trade those guys for Mack?
But you can't think of it in that sense that, okay, these were our last picks, therefore,
Those are examples.
why? Like, no, but I think it's hard to give up. 1, yes. 2, that's a very steep price. Now, if you're telling me that you're getting a second-rounder back, like the Bears did, then it's a little bit more salvageable. Also, the Bears' trajectory is on the up. They have a new coach, completely new coaching staff, a lot of new, both offensive and now defensive skill that they've added to this team. And they're in a division where they're up against, some of the most, basically, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league still at this point, and the best defense in the league, in my opinion, in Minnesota. So you have to be, you're facing the elite of the elite 4 times a year just on that. So you got to get past those guys. You got to at least get a split with them to even consider having a playoff berth. And they have a lot of talent.
And
so to me, I think that price was worth it for them.
And a split with those 2 teams, and you've got to win out against Detroit.
Right. So you have, to have any reasonable expectation, I think that's a lot. But again, it's a team that's moving up at this point. They think that they have their quarterback situation figured out. They have a nice 1-2 punch at running back.
Yeah.
And they've added some skill at the wide receiver
adding
positions.
Robinson, adding Burton, adding Taylor Gabriel.
And it's tight end too of Trey Burton. I think they have a lot of skill there. So that makes sense to me. I think they got the best end of the deal.
And you talk about Mack versus Bell. It's a little bit different in the sense that with a running back, you would expect that in the next 3 to 4 years, Bell's going to start hitting a decline.
Sure.
With an edge rusher like Mack, you're not necessarily looking at it as a short of a trajectory. They can easily get 6 to 10 more years out of a 27-year-old Khalil Mack where he is still elite.
Absolutely.
I would only get like a second for Bell.
I'd do a second for Bell.
I don't know why I said 2 first earlier. That was totally wrong. But I just
it was a good topic for discussion, though. I think a second for Bell is all I would be willing to give.
I think Mack is worth 2 first. I don't know. I just think if Doug Willie would have picked correctly and picked Sammy friggin' Watkins.
Well, look at it this way too. This would be the perfect time for the Bills to be in position to pay for Mack as well. You've got Allen, you've got Edmonds, you've got a lot of guys on rookie contracts where it'd be a little more palatable to pay Mack bigger money than it would be in a couple years when these contracts get up, or if it was in a situation where these guys that you're looking to be your future are having to be paid.
The problem with the Bills is that this year there's so much dead cap space.
Yeah.
Almost double the second most in the league. I think
with all the dead money for the
like
Coleman thing, it's like $50 million now.
$50 million for the Buffalo, and I think Dallas was at like
29.
29. Okay, nice. So that didn't even make sense. There's a lot of that is when I hear 9. There's a lot of issues that the Bills and this is intentional this year to do all of this salary dumping, and so next year you start off fresh and you have all this cap space. So I get that, but I think the opportunity cost was just too much this year. They're just hamstrung by the reality where they weren't going to be able to give a guy like Khalil Mack that contract.
And you wonder if they were willing to actually give up 2 firsts if that was the asking price. It's a team that probably figures, whether they'll admit it publicly or not, they probably figure they're going to be picking in the top 10 this year.
Reasonable minds would assume.
So you have to wonder that you want to give up a top 10 and then another top 10, top 15 player if things don't work out for Khalil Mack, and then hope that your team turns around on its own.
Yeah.
And I would have liked him here, but I can understand why they might have been a little gun shy to send 2 firsts for Mac.
Especially this year.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I was catching us in 2 firsts, because this might be a high draft pick this year.
I mean,
Right.
the September alone is a murderer's row
You know
of top
what? You got to
defenses.
shoot your shot. Houston traded for Deshaun Watson, gave up a first. It ended up being the 4th overall pick, but nobody was talking about Houston doing a poor job because you saw how dynamic of a player Deshaun Watson was in that 4 or 5 game stretch or whatever it was.
Yeah, but then again, and also 1 first versus 2 first feels like a much of a different thing too. In the cycle of the NFL content that we live in,
yeah.
1 first is okay. We don't have anything this year, but we'll be okay.
Year. Yeah,
If the Bills came out and traded 2 firsts for Khalil Mack and they were bad this year, it'd be like
it really
oof.
sucked.
And then they were bad next year
with that Sammy Watkins trade.
Yeah,
It
that
was
hamstrung them for a
real
while.
bummer. Yeah, absolutely. So
we don't have Khalil Mack.
we don't have Khalil Mack. We don't have AJ McCarron anymore.
We do have 53 other players.
Congrats to him.
Do you feel that trading A.J. McCarron was like admitting that he was going to be the third string quarterback?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they just, like I said earlier, I think they just want Josh Allen to have more reps. I don't think it was a case that they could have 3 quarterbacks where all of them are having to get some sort of practice time, especially when you're kind of in this limbo where you're still sort of undecided. Nathan Peterman right now is the starting quarterback. There's reason to believe that will change in the relatively near future. And what is AJ McCarron's role if he's not the guy that's being the placeholder at this point? So
I think once Peterman came out and proved to be utile, McCarron's usefulness when he wasn't burning down the other team's defenses became negligible.
Yeah.
I think McCarron was as much insurance that you had a viable backup if Peterman didn't show anything as he was a veteran in the room.
Do you think if they don't pull that trade off, if he doesn't hit that 4th quarter, do you think he gets cut?
I don't think so.
I think they were willing to take anything at that point, and the Raiders were probably the team that offered the most. I do think that having a veteran backup quarterback is an attractive thing for teams. And look, I think I would rather have A.J. McCarron than E.J. Manuel backing up in case Derek Carr gets hurt.
I don't know. And that's weird to say because I'm not a big EJ fan by any
He's
means.
had a lot of starts in ours.
But he's been in the system for a couple of years. He had a pretty successful preseason.
Struggled.
He's
struggled
had his,
in
he
real
certainly
game.
has had his struggles.
EJ in real game action for the Raiders.
It's rough.
Was not good.
But I don't know that McCarron having to come in and learn the system. From an Oakland perspective, you have to
Right.
come in and learn a new system now. When if something happens to Carr on Sunday, McCarron knows X percent of the playbook.
The devil you know versus the devil you don't, I suppose. AJ McCarron got... The Bills seemed to sign him to a deal that seemed under market at the time. It was under market at the time, I think. And we heard of other teams that were very interested in AJ McCarron. Maybe it was, the Raiders were one of those teams.
Certainly
We don't know, so they saw the opportunity. All right, well, might as well get a guy that we like in. And it's a relatively low cost, but I do think that the Bills got some value out of it. Where, like Mike said, if this guy is the 3rd string quarterback, to get a 5th rounder out of it, I thought getting a 3rd rounder out of Tyrod Taylor was a good deal. So, sure, why not?
I mean, be happy to take assets for guys that aren't part of your team. Whatever the best offer is, if you're just going to cut him,
Right.
take anything you
EJ
can.
Manuel was 40 for 56, for 477 yards, 71 completion percentage, 4 TDs, no picks, and he got cut. That's a good preseason.
I mean, having watched very little to none of the Oakland Raiders preseason, that sounds pretty good. I'm curious how it looked on tape, but that sounds good.
Without knowing for sure, I'm willing to bet that Derek Carr was treated with a very traditional touch in the preseason, given Mr. Gruden and his proclivities. But I guess as we look at the list of guys that were cut from the Bills, a lot of have-nots and never were.
Don't you talk about Buffalo Bills Twitter legend Brandon Riley like that?
Brandon Riley was on there. Rod
People
Streeter
are
was on
so mad on the internet about Brandon Riley not making this team. It's amazing.
That's insane, dude.
People are so upset about it.
It's worse than last year.
It is worse than last year.
The only thing I'm surprised about Riley is he didn't make the practice squad. I didn't think he was going to get a roster spot, but
It's funny, the Bills shared a video of Peterman starting, bunch of clips of Peterman tossing balls, and the first like 3 or 4 clips are him slinging balls at O'Leary, one for a touchdown. I was like, now he's on the team. His favorite target, apparently.
Nick O'Leary, boy, there were high expectations for him coming in, weren't there? Thought that you could run 2 tight ends and actually get creative with it and kind of shift around Charles Clay. And boy, O'Leary was a huge bust in my feeling.
O'Leary was okay at best. He's okay, about 300 yards a season, but I mean, he wasn't going to live up to the expectations.
I just wanted more, I guess. He seemed like the type of modern tight end that they can do.
Wait, who's his grandfather again?
It is Jack Nicholson,
Arnold Palmer.
noted actor.
Beverage enthusiast.
So, au revoir to Nick O'Leary. Enjoy the CFL. He'll probably get signed by somebody else. We talked about earlier, Corey Coleman. I guess it was worth trying to figure out if he was good or not. On a conditional
for a 7th round
rounder
pick,
that we don't even think will. We assume that one of the conditions was plays a real down
Makes
for the
team.
Bills.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen. Boy, Corey Coleman, that you talk about career crashing and burning.
Yes, that's true. One of the first round picks that
Top
Chicago
20
trades
pick
to
in
Oakland could turn into
2016.
Corey Coleman.
It could. You never know. But boy, that flame out is as quick as any I've seen in NFL history.
Did you know that the top 2 receivers on the Cleveland Browns when they snapped the ball last season for their first play were Corey Coleman and Kenny Britt?
That's
Can you believe that team went 0-16?
How?
Boy, howdy.
How did that happen with those 2 gents? Any of the offensive line guys that you were upset? DeBeer ended up getting he's a practice squad guy now, which is good for him.
He's got a great name.
That's a great name.
Love Beer. And Mike Love got caught too. Damn it.
He's on the practice squad also.
Oh, he's on the press squad?
Yep.
Excellent.
Fade surprised me a little bit. I think they had higher expectations for him coming in.
Yeah.
But there were just so many other guys that came in and just outperformed him.
Tanner Viejo.
Claimed by the Browns today.
I was kind of surprised by him. Thought that he could be a contributor, at least like a depth linebacker or something like that.
I thought Breon Borders had flashes,
Yeah.
but there's decent
It's
enough
a-
depth, I guess.
I mean, that's the worst spot if you were trying to make this team is in the defensive backfield.
And we talked about it a little bit off air. Surprising to see John Ryan's name on the list. I guess it must really mean that he's towards the end of his time in the NFL because you pay him, you bring him, and you sign him, and then he's cut very unceremoniously after being here about a week and a half.
Very weird. They must have been unhappy with Colton Schmidt.
Well,
wanted
did you
to
watch
give some more
Schmidt punt in the preseason? He looked
Well,
like
I have
someone
good news
stabbed him in
and
the
bad news
thigh.
about Corlin Schmidt.
What is it? So they obviously they bring in John Ryan from across the country, cut him, keep Colton Schmidt, and then they sign an undrafted rookie free agent who didn't punt a single
Corey-
time in the preseason.
Borges?
Now, the conspiracy theorist has said that the Patriots knew what they had, and that was why he had not attempted a punt yet, because they were going to try and sneak him through. Again, who knows with how true that is, but
Sounds like a
apparently
Patriots
this Boyorquez guy is legit. No, I don't pretend to know punting.
He's
I know
left-footed.
he's left-footed.
Went to
always
the
a strength.
University of New Mexico, and that's all I learned when I looked him up 5 minutes before the show.
Go Lobos.
Oh, jeez.
So we'll see. Let me tell you, he punted a lot in college. He got a lot of reps at New Mexico
sure did.
last year.
Well,
That leg is toned.
New Mexico is one of those places at high elevation too, so I'm hoping they're not looking at that film saying, "Oh, this guy's got a big leg," and not realizing that it's about a mile high.
What part of New Mexico have you been visiting recently?
It's a high desert.
Is it?
Yeah.
Really?
Albuquerque's a mile in the air.
Is
It's a
UNM
floating-
in Albuquerque?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Oh, we learned a
I
lot
s-
about New
I
Mexico
sit
geography
corrected.
here.
I'll say sorry to Mike.
I do like the idea of somebody punting a ball a mile into the air, though, and being like, well, that's got
I can punt this football over them there mountains.
to translate somehow.
You got a quarterback with a big old Midwest arm, a punter with a big old Midwest leg.
They played against each other in the Mountain West. In the
They
Mountain
did.
West Mountain.
Did they bring in any old linemen ever waived, or no? They're just okay with what they got.
I just saw
Have
the,
you seen
the
what we
punter
have?
in the
It's
corner.
fine.
They're good.
The problem is no one is waving good offensive linemen.
Yeah. Some of them are better than what we got right now, though. I don't know.
God, I would hope so.
Before you guys came over, I was on Twitter, and the Bills Twitter tweeted out a preview of next week's Embedded, which is preparation of last week's game. and there's a clip of the O-line having a pizza eating contest.
Oh,
That explains everything.
And
That's
it
what
was
I'm
at
going.
halftime of the game, and that seems
Yeah.
like a terrible
Complete
time to be
side
doing
note.
that.
Did you guys see that Joey Chestnut ate 206 chicken wings in the chicken wing eating contest?
And he's still
missed that.
taking his shit.
206.
And he's still shitting.
I had 18 yesterday and thought I was going to explode.
Handsome
That dude
boy.
had 206.
This is the first year I haven't gone to the Wing Fest, and I usually go on Sunday and see the competition, and I get repulsed when I watch those competitions.
Yeah, I was there and left before the competition
but
yesterday.
yet you do it every year, right?
Get the cheese hanging off. When they do the pizza eating contest, the cheese hanging out their mouth, and they're just slamming water and drool.
It's America's best pizza.
They're just scraping it up with their hand, and then I'm sitting eating wings, disgusted.
It's not nearly as bad as watching the ESPN televised hot dog eating contest.
I hate when they dip the bun in the water.
Mhm.
I gag every time I eat it. I hate soggy food. Oh my
Okay.
god!
This is now the unofficial eating podcast of the 716.
You got really defensive about soggy. You don't like soggy fries, then?
No,
You don't like cereal with milk?
not soggy. I eat it pretty quick.
Okay.
My one buddy wouldn't even put.
So it's a competition.
My one
with
buddy
it.
won't even put milk in the cereal. He just pours the cereal in the bowl and then drinks milk on the side.
Like holds the cereal in
What?
his mouth, pours some milk into there, and then swallows one whole bite.
Pretty much, man.
All right.
That's a little weird, but
I respect
it.
him. Yeah. I don't like it, but I respect it.
So we have now 53, and it might be. I wouldn't be shocked, I guess, if there was another move sometime in the next couple weeks. It tends to happen early in the season. 53 guys on the Buffalo Bills roster going into M&T Bank Stadium. in
Bring back
Baltimore.
Ryan Russell.
Bring back Ryan Russell.
We're already a half hour in. Talked about our O-line. Let's debut our new segment that we're going to have reoccurring every week.
Go ahead.
The PAT with Pat Moran,
Heyo.
the More Analytics podcast. You guys got a great podcast.
Yeah, it's a great podcast, great friend of the pod who's contributing some of his voice to us here during this season. So we've got Pat here to join us for a segment remotely talking about what he sees going into week 1.
What's going on, everyone? Pat Moran here from the Moran Analytics Podcast, partnering up with my friends from the 716 Podcast to bring in the PAT with Pat, a recurring little segment where I get whatever needs to be gotten off my chest over a span of 2 minutes. This week, obviously, it's opening week for the Buffalo Bills, and all the talk, understandably so, is about Nate Peterman being named the starter, Josh Allen the 2, and A.J. McCarron, of course, dealt to the Raiders over the weekend. But I'm going to tell you right now, at the end of the day, none of it matters. Here's why. That offensive line is going to be quite possibly one of, if not the worst offensive lines I've seen in Buffalo over the last 15, maybe even 20 years. Deion Dawkins, who by himself is no lock to become a great offensive tackle, is far and away the best player on that unit. He has room to grow. He might become good. But after that, you got a big pile of nothing. Jordan Mills is terrible. Vlad DeCoste is awful. John Miller shouldn't even be on the roster, let alone a starter. Ryan Groy starting over Bodine, but does it really matter? Neither of them are going to get the job done. There's no quality depth behind them either. Bottom line, there's no future on this offensive line or present on this offensive line after Deion Dawkins and maybe rookie Wyatt Teller. But Eric Wood and Richie Incognito retiring really hurt this team. It hurt them even more that they did not adequately replace them. And because they didn't, with this offensive line, I don't think any of the quarterbacks have a chance. And when you don't have an offensive line, you're not going to run, you're not going to throw, you're not going to win games. So I have to call it now. It pains me to say it because I am a Bills fan. But this is a team that's going to win maybe 5 games this year. You can subscribe to the Moran Analytics Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, pretty much anywhere. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Pat Moran Tweets. Thanks again to the 716 Podcast, a podcast I really enjoy. Some really intelligent Buffalo sports talk every single episode on that show. Talk to you next time.
And that was the PAT with Pat Moran. We hit that every week.
Yeah, I look forward to having Pat
It's a
alongside with us for a nice long Bill season.
Just a quick 2-minute thought. I like it. I like what he's got to say there.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to have him on with us over the summer for a longer segment, so definitely go back into the archives and check that out. But check out Pat's work. He does great work, both with Buffalo sports and sports in general, and he'll be with us throughout the course of the 2018 Bills season, whatever course that may take.
He actually, Pat's got the infamous Jerry Sullivan releasing on his show with our today, as ours is, and he says that he pretty much rips up Buffalo News. So that should be an interesting listen.
That's exciting.
Ooh.
Pat's
Well,
Pat's a good interview. So
they
it's definitely
seem so
worth listening.
united.
All those Buffalo media guys love each other.
That's
I mean,
right.
he's really got I don't want to speak about Pat. He's really got a great podcast. I mean, he kind of came in and just
He had
started
Eric Wood last week.
hot.
Yeah.
He had Eric, like his third show. He had Adam
Schefter.
Schefter on.
Sam Schefter. Yeah. He's
It
got a great
Josina
connection.
Anderson very recently. I know.
Yeah.
I saw. No, he's
Fantastic
out there
all
grinding,
around.
and I respect it. He does good
National
work.
and local guys.
So Pat would talk about the O line. He thinks it's been the worst in the past decade, 15 years.
I mean, Mike, I know you've got some passion about this. I don't remember it being this bad.
No, I don't. I would say it's not just one of the worst Buffalo offensive lines in the league. I'd say it's probably among one of the worst that I can remember in the league at that time, in that time frame. Not just Buffalo. There's 4 major question marks, and the only one that's shown any decency on that offensive line is Deion Dawkins. And you can't build an offensive line around have an offensive line just around one player. I mean, it doesn't work. You're not going to have any success. And I've said before, I think that if the Bills, they don't have to necessarily win the battle on the line, run blocking. They just have to basically draw, and the running backs can do the rest. But I'm worried about their ability to even just stand anybody up, give the running backs a chance to do anything.
Yeah, we talk about this team wanting to hopefully have some more downfield passing in the post Tyrod Taylor era.
But their pass blocking is garbage.
Well, that's the thing. If no one's able to get the time to do so, it's going to be a bunch of checkdowns again. And there's nothing that Peterman or Allen's going to be able to do about chucking the ball 40 yards downfield if they have 2 seconds every time they drop back.
It's going to be checkdowns, and it's going to be hot routes.
You know, just off subject real quick. If I'm the Bills, the scouting report on Peterman is going to be weak arm, jump, the quick outs.
He
That's
doesn't
where
have the arm to get the ball to the sideline.
He'll throw it. But if I'm the Bills, what are the first plays I'm throwing? It's
No,
a quick out and go. Pump it, hit him deep.
I was saying first play, just like go double tight end and play action, just throw the ball as far as you humanly can down towards Zay Jones, whoever's running down the field. Just back the safeties up a little bit, make them respect it, and then try to instigate from there.
I think you line up Josh Allen as one of those 2 tight ends. Just fuck with
He's
him.
big enough.
Yeah. So tall.
Can he throw a better fake block than Jay Cutler?
We can have 2 quarterbacks at tight end in Logan Thomas and Josh Allen.
Innovative.
And they both might be better than
Oh,
Nate
man.
Peterman.
Mel
Just
Kiper Jr. is like, these guys are great prospects. What are you doing wasting them on the tight end side?
Just imagine the
There's Jimmy
trick plays you
Clausen
can run
available.
out of those formations. Two, 3 quarterbacks on the field. Just imagine all those plays you can run.
We have seen Josh Allen can move, get some agility.
He has very good pocket presence.
Let's give it
which
a go.
wasn't
I don't want to
thinking that
line
he
Josh
would.
Allen up
Let's give
across
it
from
the old-
Terrell
and-
Suggs and Eric Weddle on the first play of his NFL
Well,
career when he has to actually block
Then it may
them.
be a little bit tougher
Get
to
some-
identify that
Let's
presence.
get some Antoine Randall-esque action out there. Just
Can
double
we
reverse,
just go
flea
full
flicker
s-
between
full
Logan
slash?
Thomas and Josh Allen. One of them flings it downfield.
Randall L was one of my favorite players when I was getting into football, just because how talented he was at doing, like, just the craziness of having a guy who can come around and end around and legitimately throw a 50-yard dart.
You say
he-
draft NFL players and play them at the position they played in college. My galaxy brain says positions are just an artificial creation by man.
Positions are a construct.
Can you imagine the fun Mike Mularkey would have with a tight end that played quarterback in the past?
No. I
I
actually
say
can't imagine Michael Larkey having fun with anything.
pretend that you're playing baseball and just spread them out. Just really.
Quarterback's
swell out.
over to the left of center here. It's a shift by the
Yeah,
coaching staff.
Just try it. You can learn so much from just looking around you.
Did you see the one crazy formation in college football this week?
They ran that twice in a row.
Same play
Two
twice
plays in a row. Well, same
The
formation, 2
the
plays in a
receiver
row.
Snapped it.
They
so
then
like-
proceeded to go and score 35 consecutive points. So who am I to judge?
Which game was it? I did not see.
Washington State game.
Oh, nice. Go Wazoo. Somebody gives 0 fucks up in Pullman, and that man is Mike Leach.
But they're a game ahead of Washington right now. They're
That's
as happy
right.
as can be up on that campus.
Apple
today.
Cup.
So we talked about the O-line. Figured now is a good time as any. Take a look at the Bills, who actually made the team, what we've got going into this year. Get your guys' thoughts and everything on what you see as the strengths, weaknesses, players to look out for on the 53-man roster. We
Just-
talked
Okay.
about quarterback.
Justin will
depth.
pull up that official depth chart here on BuffaloBills.com. Go ahead,
And
Justin.
it's empty.
Okay, so what?
entirely blank.
So what besides the offensive line do we think is the weakest unit?
Receivers.
Receiver.
On the
It's not
offensive
NFL
side, yeah, I think
it's not NFL receiver.
Yeah.
It could
It's-
be D-line, too. I don't know.
It's not D-line to me. Not.
It may be quarterback.
I prefer
do the
D-line to
quarterbacks
linebacker.
suck because the wide receivers are bad, or do the wide receivers suck because the quarterback's bad? It's a fair question to ask.
Well,
Chicken or
the
egg,
question, to phrase it differently, could Aaron Rodgers walk in today and make Kelvin Benjamin a top 10 receiver in the NFL?
Oh, well, yeah. So it is the right. Yeah, I think it's the quarterbacks then.
What is good news is that Peterman in the past has shown he likes throwing the ball to Kelvin Benjamin, which is a good thing.
I mean, they brought him in to be fed, so feed them. And
And
that's
man,
not
that
even a
dude
weight joke.
loves to
I
eat.
just realized that he is a big boy. He's a thick boy, and that's fine. We love our thick boys, but to me, I'm more. I think the quarterback is overall right now is weaker than the wide receivers, but I also think that both units are so woven together that one getting better will raise up the other unit with it.
Oh yeah, I think if Jones or Curley or someone really exceeds expectations, that will help the quarterback immensely to have a second or third target who is balling out there. Similarly, if Peterman goes out and just plays lights out, then throws guys open. Confidence is a two-way thing for these guys, and getting chemistry together. I'm hopeful that either Peterman or Allen can do that with some of the receivers this season.
I'm not really worried about Peterman, man. He's going to throw the ball more than Tyrod did.
So then, what are your expectations for Nathan Peterman this season?
I don't think it's going to be 4 or 5 picks a game.
Well, probably
I don't think.
not.
I don't think he's going to go out there.
That's-
I don't think he's going to go out there to fall on his face. I think he'll be average.
Like, do you think he's going to throw for 250 yards in Baltimore?
In
Sure.
Baltimore,
Yeah, why not?
I
Defense is not what it used to be.
I'd say
No.
200. I'd say somewhere in the range of 200 to 250.
Okay, I'm just asking. Like, I don't know.
And they're not
I'm
bad.
I'm curious.
They're
about
not
it.
bad at run blocking. The line shows they can run block.
I do think that there certainly seems to be more willingness in the play calling to throw the ball this year, because that seemed to be lacking.
I think
at times
Dable's a
last
21st
year.
century mind versus Dennison was very much
Very
rooted
much
in
20th century.
where he learned.
I agree, and I think that having Dable just had 2 fantastic quarterbacks and used both of them in a national championship game to win.
Last
so
year
I think
also-
he's willing to mix it up, and at least whether or not it was obviously Nick Saban has final say in Alabama, but Dable's still the one that's got to be calling up the plays.
Last year, there was really no creativity in route combinations, and you can see it now in preseason. And that's when they're running just basic vanilla offense.
The entire offense was a square peg in a round hole last year.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
And,
Yeah.
it was no matter who they put at quarterback.
No, it didn't.
When Peterman was in, I mean, that looked more like a Tyrod offense, or what should have been a Tyrod offense.
the play calling was all year.
It
What
was-
we were saying, can you
it was
move the
bass-ackward.
pocket? Please move the pocket for us. And it never was. And you're trying to make somebody, at least now, like even with what we've seen with Allen, like Allen's moving around and willing to scramble out a little bit. So
Someone's going to fact check this, I'm sure, but the Bills' offensive coordinator position the last 2 years has been such a mess that the best game we had offensive yards wise, we promptly fired the offensive coordinator because our defense allowed too many points. So hopefully this is the start of a
Yeah,
new
but the
phase.
offense
That
also
was
couldn't
awesome.
stay on the field. I mean, that was a quick strike offense, which doesn't help.
We
the
were
defense
scoring
any,
too
but-
efficiently.
Remember
Yes.
when
But
Everyone-
other than that, they couldn't move the ball.
everyone Dick Geron fired Turk Schoenert because the offense is too complicated? Remember that?
sports are fun.
And
I'm
we
so
put-
glad as Buffalo fans we have all of these great stories of
Turk
coaching
Schoener's a
to
name
talk about.
drop right there.
That's a great name drop. I haven't thought about
Solid.
Turk Schoener in a while.
Great name,
Out of curiosity, Bill, I think you're the person most similar to me last year in the views of Tyrod as Bill's quarterback that we had last season. What are your expectations for amount of 300-yard passing games between Peterman and Allen this season?
What's my over under?
4.
I was going to say 4.5.
3.5.
So no, I thought the fair over under was 4.5. I will say that I think that's actually right on. I think there will be 4 games of 300 yards passing, because I do think that as the season progresses, there's some more porous pass defenses that we could be seeing. So in that sense, I think, especially again, like I said, with more of a tendency, it looks like, to throw the ball, period. I do think that there will be more yards. I think combined, the quarterbacks will probably throw for something in the neighborhood of about like 3,500 yards.
I hope to see the Bills coming out running like 3-4 wide, and then running the ball up the middle, just to get the guys out of the box and give Shady some more room.
If I'm an opposing defense, I will leave Andre Holmes uncovered 80% of the time.
Yeah.
Just put a 6 guy in the box.
I mean, in all seriousness, I don't know how much you have to prove that spreading it out and then you're willing to throw it and hit the targets, and that's what's going to move it. I think it's very obvious from day one and until proven otherwise that if you can stop LaShawn McCoy, you will mostly stop the Bills' offense. Mm-hmm. And I think that, I mean, you can go 3, 4, 5 wide. You can spread them out as, to the sidelines if you want. I still think that there's going to be a lot of run blitzing and a lot of ability to stop. And don't forget that McCoy got hit behind the line. I think it was the most in the league. Wasn't it like almost 20%? Around 20% of his runs were for negative yards last year. Because
the average
teams knew
yards
that was
to
the
contact
guy.
was so small.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you will see a lot of screen passes to slow down that pass rush.
You're going to have to use screen passes and draws and
and
things to try to
draws.
draw defensive linemen upfield.
Yeah, and it is going to have to take creative play calling because it starts with those guys up front, and there's 5 of them, and it seems like it's only going to take 3 or 4 guys to beat them, and then God help us when there's some blitz packages coming in. You got 5 or 6 guys, and these guys who can't block 4 are going to really struggle when that extra man comes through.
I'm going to miss seeing Richie Incognito rolling out, just chugging downfield. Guy's an excavator with legs, man. Like, it's a terrifying.
Yeah, the goodness is you want to see Richie Incognito chucking something down a field, you can probably follow his Instagram, and he'll be throwing something over, throwing a shovel down a field at some point. In the
Say
next
what
couple weeks.
Richie the person, great offensive
Rich the
lineman.
offensive lineman is very talented. Richie the person is a little
Shitty
bit
human
eccentric.
being. Shitty human being.
Interesting human being. Yeah,
Interesting human being.
Where are you going on there?
Needs great assistance in his obvious mental health issues that the man has. Also kind of an asshole. But a great offensive lineman. So
It's
gotta be able to
partially forgiven.
compartmentalize. So he's all good. Like
So- So offense, pretty much beaten to death.
yeah.
defense-
it's running back
defensively-
and that's it.
What do you think guys think is going to be the strength and weakness of the defense?
I'm actually now starting to think that it may not be the defensive backfield, and I'm almost willing to think that maybe with some of the added depth that this defensive line could actually be the best unit. And if the defensive line can get that pressure on the quarterback and stop that run game, that makes the defensive backfield better. And I think it's possible, at least, that they could be better.
I liked how the defensive line, the whole front 7 looked against the one game against Cincinnati and Chicago. It's just that pass defense that I'm kind of concerned about because they didn't show that they can get any kind of pass rush in any situation, and it's just kind of concerning when you've got. I don't even remember
Andy
who
Dalton
Chicago's.
throwing darts.
No, I'm not even. Okay, I'll give you Andy Dalton with that nice pass to A.J. Green, but
Sure.
I don't remember who Chicago's quarterback was, and I watched that pretty much the whole game, and I can't remember who that guy was, but I remember him putting it in there pretty decently especially the first half.
Those parts are interconnected, I think. Nobody has talked about the linebacking core. What do we feel about the linebackers at this point?
See, personally, I think the linebacking core is the weakest part of the Bills' defense as it stands. I like the secondary.
It has the most chance to grow, though, this year, right?
Yes, it does, because a lot of this is going to depend for me on how Tremaine Edmonds develops as a player. And I think later in the
It's
season,
huge.
we get 6 to 8 weeks in, I might revisit that opinion. I think the defensive line has much better depth, and I think they didn't really show everything they're going to show opposing offenses, pass rush-wise and scheme-wise in the preseason. I'm not worried about Hughes. I'm not worried about Lawson, at least not yet. I think the defensive tackle position was lacking aside from Kyle Williams for a while, and I think Phillips and Lichulele are great additions there.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have a lot more potential to stuff up the middle and draw a lot more double teams away from guys like Jerry Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think safeties are both great. I think Trey White is great. And hopefully you get something from Gaines resembling what he showed he could do in Indianapolis. And I don't know, slot corner might be a little weak, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, it is hard to say. And at this point, it's almost like, well, slot corner basically is playing out there all the time anyway, so you don't want it to be a huge issue. But
rumor on the Twitter
It's
sphere.
possible.
Sorry, I let you down.
no, go ahead.
Rumor on the Twitter sphere is that Coach Peterman has not decided who's gonna start opposite Trey White yet.
Really?
I saw that about an hour ago. From some
What are the expectations with that then?
I said Gaines. I meant Vontae Davis.
Yeah, no, I know who you meant. It better be Vontae Davis, right?
It's got to be.
You would hope.
Teron
He's
Johnson is not there yet. I wouldn't think. There's only 5. No, there's not more than 5. There's 6. 6 cornerbacks on the roster. Is Phillip Gaines the number 3? Then is Phillip Gaines the guy who might be across from Trey White?
Maybe. I feel like if you're playing Gaines and Davis, don't you feel like you lose some athleticism?
I think you lose the
Comparatively, I guess
potential
it's-
for athleticism, and there it is. Justin pulled it up now for Matthew Fairburn on Twitter. Mike alluded to Ryan Groy starting at center, and Pat did also. Bills are still working through who will start at corner across from Trey White. Not a ringing endorsement for Vontae Davis. I think that's stating it lightly. We talked the last show about Vontae getting burned pretty bad on that. John Ross touched on to the point where he tried to haul him down and didn't even haul him down.
I mean, at least he recognized what he did wrong on that play, and yes, he is trying to work back from injury, but still, you would hope a veteran corner would know what they need to do against a speedster like Ross.
well, knowing what to do and being able to do it are two different things.
Right. But also having the ability to, if you're not necessarily feeling like you're running at full speed, knowing some tricks of the trade to be able to kind of counteract that, because you know what John Ross is at this point. He runs fast, right? So you got to just do a little bit better job of making sure you don't
at the
let
same
him get
time, though,
behind you.
NFL coaches, for the most part, aren't dumb.
No,
and they know that if you have a guy out there who's not running, that's where your
You
fast
attack
receiver's
it.
going
Yep.
every
that's
time.
fair. That's true.
So I said it last week. I said it in the regular season. I don't think Vontae Davis is covering John Ross.
I think they don't want Vontae Davis to cover John Ross, but it doesn't mean that teams won't scheme ways and picks and things that will get John Ross.
But
and Vontae
if
Davis in the
Davis
same
is,
spot.
I mean, you worry then, and that's kind of what I'm saying too. I don't think that this defensive backfield is as good as it was last year, and it's not just the turnovers, which I don't think are going to repeat. I think Tre'Davious White is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. I worry a little bit about the safety. I think both safeties had career years last year. Is that repeatable?
They won't have the same year. There'll definitely be a little bit of drop off, but in terms of to go back to cornerbacks, they did pick up that guy at the Patriots waiver wire, that Lewis guy.
Yeah. Well, again, you assume that he's not ready to play.
Well, I'm assuming he's very fast. But so I'm saying in the regular season they're going to scheme against a fast player, probably have a guy following around like that guy. Let's don't try to say very poorly.
I guess. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But now this is actually one of the more intriguing questions going into Baltimore. Who's going to be the second
number 2?
quarterback? Yeah.
Because Baltimore went out and signed 3 receivers who have had varied levels of success on other teams. They signed Michael Crabtree, they signed John Brown, and they signed Willie Snead. And you're going to need to effectively cover at least those 3 guys.
Crabtree, not so much a burner, but the other 2 pretty fast guys.
You figure that White probably gets Crabtree,
Probably.
and then you hope that. I mean, the other Brown's a fast guy, but not obviously not. I was going to say not John Ross levels of fast, but I think that goes without saying because there aren't very many.
Right.
But he's a downfield threat.
But John Brown, when he was playing with Arizona, he was the fast
He
guy.
can open the lid on the defense a little bit.
And Willie Snead's pretty quick as well.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
So I guess nothing left to do at this point, but then talk about
Kickers.
talk about the punter situation.
No, okay.
Steven Hauschka made the team, folks.
Congratulations, Housh Money. 26 shirts. Pleased with that. Always roll that back out again. The special teams actually is interesting, but nobody really gives a crap about punting. So
It's interesting that they. I know we talked about it earlier.
It's
the whole
weird.
Smith thing is so weird.
it's weird. It's very weird, and it's fine because.
He was not good.
But it was weird. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. What are your expectations going into Baltimore this weekend for what you think this team can accomplish? I know it's hard to say week one
No,
versus week two.
I think
but
it's going to be very similar to Tyrod's first game as Bill's starting quarterback, which was on the road at Baltimore week 1, and it was an ugly game, low scoring. To me, I think the team that scores 2 touchdowns first wins this. I'm going to bet the under if betting was. I don't even have to say it because betting's legal now. So let's bet the under.
Everyone find us on FanDuel.
That's right. I think it's like a type of game that's like 17-6. That kind of feels right.
Bills,
to me.
right? 17-6 Bills.
I have the Ravens winning this one. I have
Yeah.
until I see
don't
it on
remember
the
who
field.
I picked last week.
Until I see it on the field, I have no expectations for this offense. It hasn't looked good when it's been challenged by real NFL players. So until I see it perform at a level, hey, if Buffalo wins 35-7, I'll be the first one to admit I'm wrong when we record next week. I don't see it. I think it's a low-scoring game.
Yeah,
I think it's an ugly low-scoring game.
17-14.
Yeah.
14-10 type of game.
I'll go 17-9.
And if you ask me which of the two teams are more likely to blow up and put up 40 points, it's Baltimore.
Sounds about right.
I'm giving the Bills this game, boys.
Wow, you really came around full circle
I was gonna
since
say,
last week where you
you-
picked them to start like 0-8.
Yeah, you didn't last week, but look at what happened. You're confident.
Optimism is catching in.
You
It's
got AJ
coursing through
McCarron
his
bringing the
veins.
boys back.
So what changed between last week and this week?
Did they have them win the first game?
No, you
No.
have them
No.
losing.
No.
I think.
I don't
I
think
think
any
I was
of
the only
us-
person who gave them the first game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have been.
I'm changing my mind, guys. I had a few beers last week.
This is the unofficial craft beer in the background podcast of Buffalo.
We were having heady toppers on the show last week. I was not
We did.
myself.
This is a true statement that actually happened. This is a statement of fact. They were good.
I think this is a,
New segment for the year is what are we drinking?
of the first 4 games of the year. This is the one game I think they had the best chance of winning. I think they're what they used to be. I don't think Joe Flacco's that great.
No, he's not.
I don't think the receivers are
No,
that great.
He's better than great. He's elite.
Joe Flacco had his
He's an elite
replacement
contract.
drafted, and then all of a sudden it motivated him to have what all indications are was his best camp ever.
Just need a little kick in the pants to get himself
Kicking the
motivated.
nards
I
via
think-
Lamar Jackson.
I think the Bills are going to come out with the win, the low-scoring, ugly win. I think they'll win.
I'd love some
I don't
low
think-
scoring.
That is
ugly
the
football.
formula. I don't see a way where this team is just out there outscoring teams this year.
Hey, the McDermott's got them. He's built a scrappy team, and that's how they're going to scrap through.
They're gym rats.
Yeah.
They hustle.
They like pizza.
They love pizza.
It's the culture.
I like what McDermott's done. I like what I see them in better videos. I think he's a good coach. I don't know. I just like
so
what
the
he's
PR
built.
campaign is working.
No, I
here.
like what he's built around here. I like the mindset he's got the players in, and I think this is one game that can.
He definitely has a mindset of culture first, and he's not afraid to eliminate players that do not fit that culture. As we've seen, there's only 5 or 6 players that were drafted by the previous regime left on this team. I mean, it's been a pretty clean sweep. I am not sure if that's going to translate on the field this year.
Are they? Is Trent
It
Murphy,
could next year.
Is Trent
but
Murphy healthy? Is he good to go?
I haven't
I have
heard.
no
I don't.
idea.
I don't think. I imagine he will be a game time decision.
I have no idea. This one, I'm really interested to see him up there and Jerry Hughes. See which one of them gets more space to work.
Yeah.
One of them's gonna free up one or the other, and it's gonna be fun to watch.
That's the formula to do it. I mean, I think to win this game, they probably do need to get not a defensive touchdown because it seemed like they got all of the defensive touchdowns last year, but the defense is going to have to do something.
They're gonna need short fields. They're gonna need.
See, and that's where I think Baltimore is going to win this game because like I keep saying, going back to the offensive line, Suggs is going to be running around pretty much free over these guys all day. That's what I'm worried about. Is Baltimore is going to get the field position advantage. It's going to be a low-scoring game, but Baltimore is going to get that field position advantage, and even if they convert a few 3 or 4 field goals, that's where it's going to be won for them.
So All right, my final score is 17-9. Jeff, what do you got?
I have 14-10 Baltimore.
Whew. Lucky us. Mike.
16-7 Baltimore.
Yeah, I like that.
Some big Justin Tucker boots.
I think that's a good score.
Justin.
14-13 Bills.
14-13 Bills. Love it. Baltimore makes a furious comeback and it fails.
No, it's just Mike's game, but instead of making that third field goal, we blocked the third Tucker.
Oh,
Take it
nice.
back.
I'm going to go 18-13 Bills.
18-13.
We're going to go 6 Hauschka field
Oh,
goals.
boy. Yeah, that feels more believable than your last
Give
score.
the fans what they want. They came to see points.
I gotta believe
Hauschka.
with this offense, it's gonna be at least 2 field goals. So
That's going to be 4 field goals and a touchdown, but because we have a new holder, he's going to muff the extra
Just
point.
bombing them from 50 plus out on that natural field turf that they now have there.
It's beautiful down there in the state of Maryland.
Oh, right on the bay. Yeah, crab cake.
Any particular reason you pulled up pictures of Terrell Suggs on your
not
monitor?
pictures. I want to
Justin?
see his stats from
He's a
last year.
handsome double.
I want to see
Look at
how
that picture.
I want to see
of
how
him
old he
both
was and what his stats was like last year.
He's
35.
old as shit.
11 sacks as a 34-year-old man. That's pretty good.
He's still got it,
He's
baby.
Still
talented.
going.
Still got it. Drafted in 2003.
I wonder who the Bills
Long time ago.
drafted that year. Does anyone know off the top of their head who the Bills drafted in the first round of 2003?
No, because that Mike
Was
Williams.
it the Mike Williams year?
No, Mike Williams, I believe, was
2004?
2002. I think 2003 was that oh god, the safety.
Dante Whitman.
No, I don't think that was Whitner.
That wasn't Hittner.
Let's see. Let's go. We drafted late that year.
I don't think Whitner was drafted.
Or did we
until I
just
moved
trade our
out
first
here.
round pick that year?
Oh, we
McGahee.
traded down to get Willis McGahee
Yeah.
from Atlanta.
Yeah, that worked
That's-
out well, didn't it?
Honestly, in the grand scheme of Bills' first round picks the last 20 years, that's not that bad.
True.
Folks,
At least
is-
McGahee was a competent pro, and there was a lot
Who'd
of
they-
upside for him off that knee injury.
Justin, sort by team so we can just run through. We'll close tonight by going through the
Yeah,
2003
that one.
Bills draft. This should be fun.
Cool.
So
yeah.
Willis McGahee, Chris Kelsey in
Good
the
pick.
second.
That was a good
turned
one,
out
yeah.
to be fine. Angelo Crowell in the third.
Good.
Fine.
Yeah.
Terrence McGee. This is actually way
That's a
better than I
great
thought it was.
draft.
That's 4. Sam Aiken never really amounted to much. Someone named
Ben Sobieski.
Ben
Sobieski,
Sobieski.
a guard from Iowa with the last
Don't
name
remember him
Sobieski.
playing.
I'll be damned. LaVale Sape
Don't remember him at all.
and Mario
Mario
Hagan.
Hagan. It's not, for a
That's
7th
fine.
rounder,
Look.
that's fine.
McGahee, Kelsey, Crowell, McGee. I think that's a win.
That's probably the best draft of the decade.
I mean, even Hagen had a few years here, right? A few decent years here, didn't
he
he?
stuck around as a death guy, and Aiken was here for a couple of years.
Who was GM then?
Was that? I don't think they had a GM at that point, right? Was Marv not? Marv had not come back yet.
Was it?
No,
Russ
Marv had
Brandon.
not come back yet.
I don't know who it was. I think Dono was out by that point. Maybe it was still him. I don't know. Polian was gone, obviously.
Who was post Dano? Was it Marv?
No, I think they went without a GM for a long time. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bills
'cause-
did not believe in having GMs. Buddy Nix was like a revelation that we had an 80-year-old guy that was running a scouting department.
While we look up who was the GM for the Bills in 2003, after Terrell Suggs that year, the Ravens took Kyle Bowler.
Ooh,
Ouch.
didn't work
Can't
out.
all be winners.
Donahoe.
Donahoe was okay. So Donahoe, he was pretty good at what he did. And then, of course, there's the figurehead of Marv Levy for 2 years, and then Russ Brandon, who loves the ladies.
Russ Brandon officially for 1 year, and then unofficially for the following 6.
Yeah, forever and ever. Very good. So as we fall down this wormhole, Justin's now pulling up the 2001 NFL draft, and we're just going to keep the tapes rolling
So,
here. And
Bill, what was your favorite college football game for the weekend?
I was camping, so I was unable to watch any college football.
That's fair.
So I have no opinions on it.
That's a good
Although
draft,
Texas
actually.
losing
That
to
was a
Maryland
decent
is
draft.
hilarious.
Schedule a home
Well,
and home
your
as a
first
ranked
3.
team. Texas isn't back. Tennessee isn't back. Kansas isn't back.
Oh, poor
Miami's definitely not back.
Oh no, Kansas.
Florida State's on their way to not being back.
Nebraska postponed. They're coming.
Nebraska will not be back as of next Saturday.
Back. Akron. Yeah. Couple of interesting things. Poor Washington. Just can't ever figure it out. Justin's not looking at the 2002 NFL
I was
draft.
trying to find something in
Because
particular.
we didn't say the last one he looked up was 2001.
Yeah.
We didn't tell him.
Going through all
that.
Donahoe's drafts.
So there you go.
Sorry.
I also had the
Did
draft.
Mike
Oh,
Williams,
that's the Mike
Yeah,
Williams.
Mike
draft.
Williams, Josh Reed, Ryan Denny,
Coy
Wire. There we go.
This is the worst
That-
draft so far.
That was Coy Wire.
Coy
was
Wire
probably
was a
the
pro
best
for a
one.
while.
He was probably the best one out of that draft. Josh
Reed
was
couldn't
alright.
catch a fucking cold.
There are so many tabs opening up on this Chrome browser right now. Look at this, man.
I don't know what we're
Here in the
looking
new
for.
war room, we have 2 screens.
Yeah.
Our potential will be unleashed.
A lot of people have been asking what our new setup is, and we appreciate all that.
Go to the Twitter.
Basically, the most important thing is on our Twitter feed. So check out 716 Sports
Did you
Podcast.
put it on Twitter?
Yeah.
What?
Absolutely.
Did I put what on Twitter? I didn't put anything on Twitter. I'm just directing everybody to go to at 716 Sports Podcast. You can see our new setup. I don't know.
With the character limit change on
That-
Twitter, can we add the S in sports?
No, you only. I think it's still locked down on the
That's
names.
unfortunate.
But we can have 65-digit display names.
Oh, God bless.
So that's cool.
God bless. Go.
Justin's now going to twitter.com, social media website. Microblogging.
This is full
at its
circle where
finest.
Justin's going to check out what we posted on Twitter while we tell you to go check out what we posted on Twitter.
So, several of us have access to the team. Let's see here what happened.
At least 3 of us.
Yep. Been getting a lot of followers recently. That's pretty cool.
And we appreciate you.
Yep. Hey, thanks.
Unless you're a
thanks-
robot, in which case, beep boop.
Thanks for the follow. And apparently, what I did was post a giant black screen.
That's not true because I saw the picture. I retweeted it from my phone. Safari might not be your browser of choice here. There we go.
There it is.
I look awful.
That's not the point.
Dang.
It's that wonderful blue lighting behind you.
Justin has a giant. Yeah, it's got that mood light.
Yeah, so for when Justin did the 11-day power play last year, some coworkers made a giant cutout of his head to hold in the stands that now sits directly above where he sits while we do the podcast. Go
Such
Bills.
a handsome boy.
Yeah.
All right.
You're a turd.
Does anybody find it kind of creepy that Justin's head is staring at us as we do this?
No, I prefer
That
it.
was the best part. I actually was gonna put it right here. We'll get to that after.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
visual
up to you
medium.
to make the change since
Do you
live
still got
here
the
and
other
we don't.
one?
No. I
'Cause
autographed
I-
it and sent it off.
Because I was thinking if you had the other one, just put it on the opposite wall so you can be staring at yourself. Staring
Yeah,
at us.
when we become famous, you can raffle off a chance to get a signed Justin head
Yeah. Good.
someday.
All right, let's get out of here.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Facebook, Twitter, other
Instagram,
sites,
Snapchat, Reddit,
MySpace,
LinkedIn.
Friendster,
Whoa.
Tumblr.
Getting old there.
whatever that Chinese Amazon equivalent is. Weibo.
Alibaba?
Alibaba, yep. I don't think we're actually streaming on there yet, but Justin will work on that.
Okay.
No, we're streaming on there. We just don't know. it.
Justin's giant head is going. I think he's just watching a CNN health video on mute. So we will say goodnight. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good night. Go Bills.